Welcome back, City Builders. Kodiak the Kodiak here. In this jam-packed weekly recap, we'll be going over how to make custom parking lots, as well as covering some amazing new mods that have come out, and there is so many more amazing ones on the way. Now, before we get started, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you can keep up to date with all the City Skylines 2 news, tips, and tricks. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, now before we get too far into the thick of things, I do want to do a little self-promotion here on my Ned Dirt Radio mod that I uploaded to Thunderstore. I brought it up in last week's video, but it is fully officially up now, and it will be linked down in the description. I just want to give a huge thank you to CityRat for working with me and helping me get this uploaded and packaged properly. I had some issues packaging it because my game isn't stored on my C drive, and it caused some issues with packaging, yada, yada, yada. But a huge thank you to CityRat. Thank you so much. CityRat has done an amazing job making tons of great radio stations that are currently available on Thunderstore, as well as some of the UI elements for things like extra landscaping tools. So massive shout out to him, as well as Ned Dirt, who provided obviously all the music. This was a birthday gift for my musician friend Ned Dirt, so go download his music. Also, I just want to give a shout out to all the creators participating currently in 5 Builders 1 City. If you guys haven't taken a look at this, it is 5 builders all making one city. They're in season 4. In past seasons, other big content creators like City Planner Plays have participated in it. The most recent episode was uploaded by Cities by Diana, who was in our Cities 2024 wishlist video, so if you guys haven't taken a look at that, please make sure you do that up in the annotations right now. But yeah, there's a bunch of other really great creators who will be taking guest build spots as well, but it is 5 builders, 1 city, and a bunch of creators passing around saves, all putting their own unique style on the build. It's really cool. I highly suggest it. Before we get too much further, I do want to talk about the map video that was supposed to come out this past week. I just ran into some issues with it, and I didn't really feel like I was doing a great job showing off the maps. I also realized that I looked at one of the info views wrong and got the wrong impression about some of the maps, so I wanted to go back and re-record it, and I just didn't have a ton of time to be able to do that this past week. So that video has been delayed until next week, or I guess this week now, because this video is going up on Sunday. So do keep an eye out for that. There is some fantastic custom-made maps that I hadn't even really noticed before until I started recording and making this video, so do keep that in mind. Now, I want to give an update about something I talked about last week, which was Anarchy mod and the Bulldozer tool. So Anarchy mod is a mod that's available on Thunderstore. Again, links to pretty much everything I talk about today will be down in the description. But if we go down into the Bulldozer tool, you'll notice that there's actually a bunch of different options that you have access to. So we have target surfaces. Anarchy mod got an update, so now it actually says what each thing does, which is really nice. This was not here when I recorded this last time, but it actually gives you descriptions of everything. So the first one's gameplay manipulation, which allows you to use a bulldozer on moving objects, such as vehicles or sims. This next one is bypass confirmation, which disables the prompt for weather. You are sure you want to demolish a building, so if you're destroying like a unique asset, so if I were to go over here and want to destroy that, it would give me the warning, but if I turn this on, it wouldn't give me the warning, right? Something like that. This far right one here is surfaces, which we went over last week, which are the, if we turn on Anarchy mod, are all of the different textures, I guess, that are in the game underneath all the buildings, right? So those are surfaces. And then this one, I did bring up, and I was talking about these invisible paths, which are things that exist on a lot of the buildings and surfaces in the game, right? So what these invisible paths are essentially pathing for vehicles and sims. So the blue ones are for vehicles, and the green path is for sims. So those are places that the sims are bound to walk. They basically function as pedestrian paths, but are invisible, or they function as roads when they're blue, basically. Now, something I said last week is that there really wasn't any reason to like use them or like destroy them, because you can't destroy the ones built into the assets, and you still can't do that. But a lot of people mentioned in my comments that you can find invisible pedestrian paths as well as invisible roads inside the object menu, which is true. You can use invisible pedestrian paths. You can find these by hitting the home key if you have dev mode active. If you guys don't know how to activate dev mode video up in the annotations, and we go to invisible. We have invisible pedestrian paths, and we can place these, and they are basically just sidewalks, but invisible. The pedestrians will walk on these green paths, and they'll walk across them. The reason I didn't bring this up was that they initially didn't work. I mean, maybe they worked for other people, but they did not work in my game. I spent an entire stream and a half working with Bad Peanut in the early days of dev mode when we were trying to kind of like uncover what was in here, and we were trying to build a custom park, and we actually used some of these invisible pedestrian paths, and the Sims did not want to use them. So I don't know if like one of the game updates between then and now actually fixed these paths, but I didn't bring it up because I didn't think they worked. So thank you for everybody for yelling at me, I guess, but they didn't work initially before, so I'm really happy that they work now. But do keep in mind that you do need Anarchy mod in order to destroy these. You can't destroy these without Anarchy mod. You cannot get them to pop up. You'll never be able to see them to destroy them, but you can destroy them as long as you have target markers turned on. Along the same vein of this, Sully did an amazing video about how to make custom parking lots over on his YouTube channel, and I highly suggest you guys take a look at it. I put it in my community tab, which if you guys haven't taken a look at my community tab, I do like to post updates in there, as well as in my Discord, which if you're not in my Discord, please join my Discord. Links again down in the description. But when I gave the update that I wasn't going to have the map video ready this week in my community tab, I also linked to Sully's parking lot video, because honestly, it's amazing what Sully is constantly able to do. This guy's like able to push the boundaries of like what we think is like ready and available in this game. I feel like every week at this point. If you guys haven't taken a look at his Silverstone Raceway video, here's a screenshot from it. I mean, it's amazing what this guy's doing. But that being said, I kind of spent the past couple streams just making custom parking lots, kind of messing around with this feature. And right here, this is a fully functional parking lot, and it's fully custom made. It's using the same things that the actual pre-placed parking lots are using. If we go over here to the university, you can actually see that it's the exact same shape of the road. Pedestrians will walk on these green paths, and the cars will drive on the blue to get to the parking spaces. As a matter of fact, these are the exact same invisible paths that we can actually use to make these custom parking lots. There's some really important things to know about these custom parking lots, though, so I want to go into a little bit of a deep dive on like how they work and give you guys some tips and tricks on how to build these things. Now, Sully does this as well in his video, but Sully also goes like above and beyond and makes some beautiful stuff. So I still really suggest you guys take a look at Sully's parking lot video, because he goes into super detailed builder mode and gives me like a ton of inspiration on how I should build my parking lots in the future. And he does some amazing stuff with his. So really check out that video. But I'm going to give you guys a brief explanation and some tips and tricks that I've found from the past couple days of messing around with building these parking lots. So first off, these invisible pedestrian paths do work. You can connect to them straight up to the actual pedestrian walking paths. And if we go over to my university, there's actually no built-in pedestrian paths inside the university assets. As a matter of fact, I'll even place a second university and show you guys. So if we place the second university over here and we open up the pathing, you can see that it's here, but there's no walking paths throughout the entire university, which is honestly a damn shame. This lot is amazing, first off, to look at, and secondly, there is just so many pedestrian paths ripe for your citizens to be able to walk around in to make your university just feel more alive. So I'm going to destroy this university, and if we go back over to my university and we open up the target markers view so we can actually see all the pedestrian paths inside the lot, I've actually gone through and painted a bunch of pedestrian paths all over my university. And if you take a look, especially on this back path up over here, citizens are actually using the university to walk through from one side of the city to the other. Now, if we actually turn off target markers, because it also shows hidden trees, you can actually see them walking fully through the campus. They'll even snake their way through some of these parks that are in here as well, because I've fully gone through with the pedestrian paths, and I've fully drawn through. Ooh, I could actually add another one right here. So let's actually do that right now. So we can go here into the invisible, the add object menu. We typed in invisible and we go to path, and all you have to do is draw a path. Just like that, boom. And now my citizens will actually walk through here if they ever want to. I don't know if the pathfinding is good for them to actually like want to walk through here, but if they ever did, they could now. An important thing to keep in mind though with the invisible pedestrian paths is that the ones that are built into specific assets, so if we come over here to the college and we look at the built-in pedestrian path that's actually built into the college, for some reason, the ones that are built in really hate linking to your custom ones. I'm not really too sure what it is about it, but like let's say if we draw it right here, it'll act like there's a connection here when you place it. Like it acts like there's some kind of walking path, but for whatever reason, your Sims will not utilize the ones built into the assets unless they're accessing the lot. So unless they're actually going to the college for like recreation opportunities, right? Because I believe each one of these little markers that pops up are like a hangout spot or something. Unless they're actually going to one of those, they will not utilize these walking paths. So do keep that in mind, that if you're building from assets, like the built-in ones are really, really finicky. Another interesting thing is that you also just can't build over top of them without, as you can see, it looks like it's like snaking over top. I know my object menu is kind of covering it up, but like it looks like there's like a bridge and it's snaking over top of it. Your Sims will float over top of it. So in theory, you could make pedestrian path that goes all the way through campus if you really wanted to, and goes over top and like goes out this way, but they'll never actually use it if you don't go over top of the pre-built walking paths. And if you do, they'll float in the air over top of it. They'll genuinely act like there's a walking bridge here, and they'll go up and down. So it's not perfect yet. I'm not sure what the code is, obviously, on the background of the game. I'm no coder. I don't really know what's actually going on the back end. And obviously the asset editor isn't complete, and we don't have access to full modding support. So I'm sure down the road we'll have a little bit more customizable flexibility when it comes to these walking paths. But right now we're in a pretty good spot, just being that we can at least add some kind of pedestrian walking paths if we want to. We can make custom parks if we want to. I haven't gone too in depth with messing with custom hangout spots or anything like that. I don't think there's any reason to add them, because the Sims need like a reason to go there, and you can't like add recreation to one of the custom hangout spots. So just keep in mind that like if you do make a custom park, you might not have Sims hanging out in it, but you could at least have them walking through it if you really wanted to with these invisible pedestrian paths. Now, obviously you could use just the conventional walking paths that exist in the game, but if you wanted to use custom textures, like if you go into your surface tab, if you have the extra landscaping mod, again, link in the description, and you wanted to make some custom tile paths like so, right? This is really bad, I know, I'm sorry, but you could make these custom tile paths if you really wanted to, and then add the invisible pedestrian paths over top of it, and you could have a completely different ground texture for your walkways. So we are really close to being into full detail mode for City Skylines 2, which is really amazing for those of us looking for that opportunity, the ability to have a lot more detail and a lot more customizability in our cities. Now, that being said, I got on this entire tangent due to parking lots. So I'm going to show you guys how I made my parking lots that I have up here. These are custom parking lots. And so I'm going to show you guys how I at least made this one over here, because I would like to add 2 more up over on this side. So I'll do 1 for you guys right now. I'll probably speed up through parts of this, but I just want to show you guys at least how I made it. So if you guys just want to copy and paste what I do, you can do it, or you can use the information that I'm going to give you right now to make your own, especially coupled with the information that Sully has in his video, which again, I really suggest you guys take a look at. So the first thing I'm going to do when I go to make this parking lot is I'm going to go in here and locate the 3 roads that we need. So we need invisible pedestrian paths, which you just showed off, invisible road path 2x 2-way, and invisible road path 2x 2-way 2x perpendicular, which is the one that actually builds your parking spaces. I think they function just like road parking spaces. So if you charge for zoning, like your actual zone to have roadside parking, I think these will have paid parking then. They are not an individual asset, so you can't charge for individual parking unless you draw a district around it. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to find, let's do snap to road guidelines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with this pedestrian path, because I want the main drive to, so when you come into this parking lot right here, I want it to come in through this parking. Yeah, so just like that. So essentially what this does now is that this blue path, even though it's not snapped up to the road, Sully said not to directly snap these up to the road. So don't go like this with it, basically. Don't connect it directly up to the road. Connect it up until you see these green lines kind of come off that. But what you see here now is that people will actually use this as a pedestrian path. These green lines, pedestrians will use if they want to walk through here. And the blue lines are for cars to access. And if the cars, if these blue lines are close enough to the road, they'll drive off the road onto these blue lines. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually go in here, and I'm going to create some parking spaces. So all I'm going to do is grab my 2x 2-way 2x perpendicular, and I'm going to draw out some parking spaces. I'm going to go out to, I think, right here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side, right to here. I'm trying to make this match what I have down here, which I think is pretty close. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually make the second row of parking spaces. But if you use grid snapping, you'll notice that as you drag these out, they're going to either overlap those parking spaces, or there's going to be a pretty decent sized snap. The spacing between these is not the best. So if you really want them to line up like I do, you're going to have to figure out where you need to place your parking spaces. So I got to just kind of fiddle around with it until it gets lined up just like it is right there. And then what you can do is you can either go down and manually figure out how far down you want to go, but if you were using snap to zoning cell length like I was, I can just do that and then it'll snap to the same distance right there. And then go through and connect these 2 points up with regular parking spaces. And just like that, it'll create that. Now it looks like it snapped that off, so we can go back and try this again until we can get the parking spaces to kind of build how we want them to. So I'm going to turn off the zoning cell length maybe. And I think that's totally fine with me. You know what? I take that back. I'm going to try to line this up exactly like I have it on the other side. So we're going to just mess around with this for a minute. Hold on. There we go. Now I have the framework for my parking lot that I want down. Again, I'm still learning how these invisible road paths kind of work and how they function and how to like basically work with them in order to create the parking spaces that I kind of want. You'll learn that too as you use them more, but this is just how I've kind of found to use them at this point. So I'm building this parking path and this is how I have it. I'm gonna actually destroy this road section up here because I don't really want cars coming up here and turning around. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this invisible pedestrian path and I'm going to turn off snap to existing geometry, and I'm just going to drag this down until the two paths connect up. So you can see the green path goes into the pedestrian walking path, and it connects up to this green section. And because this isn't a pre-baked walking path, this pedestrian path will link up to it, and pedestrians will actually walk through this, which is really awesome. Now, in order to clean this up, I'm going to go through with the pavement surface. This was the one I used on the other pavements, and I'm actually just going to go through here and draw a pavement area over where we have the parking spaces and where we have the pedestrian path. Now, if you don't have extra landscaping tools, you can find these in the object menu by typing surfaces. So if you go press the home key with dev mode on and type in surfaces, you can find all of these surfaces. They'll be available for you in here. So the concrete surface, well, this is actually a pavement surface 1, which is this one, and then this is pavement surface 2. As you can see, it toggles between them because it's the same thing. Extra landscaping tools just gives you access to it in the nice UI options. And if you also notice that my UI is a bit bigger, that's because I'm using a different mod that we'll be talking about later. So now that I have the pavement for these parking spaces, and let's just say we want to turn off everything that we've kind of been looking at already, and we already look at it, it looks pretty nice. We have access to a bunch of these parking spaces. I did leave a bit of a gap, or maybe this is even overlaid with one another, so I think I'm going to make some adjustments here, and I will cut back after I fix it. Okay, there we go. Now they're perfectly lined up with one another right on the top side, which again, you just have to kind of fiddle with in order to get it right. But then once you have it, there you go. Cars will actually drive through here and park if they want to. I'll even press play and see if anything will come through here and park. See, and there you have it. We have a car that went through and parked, and now we have this pedestrian walking through after we get through this autosave. And they'll actually use our pedestrian walking paths and end up on the actual pedestrian paths. So we have a fully customizable and functional parking lot. I'm going to do a little time lapse now of me detailing it exactly how I detail it. And after that, we'll go through any of the new mods or just final recaps of how this works. If you don't want to watch the time lapse, you can obviously skip ahead. I use chapters in all my videos, so if there's ever a section of the video you don't want to watch, you can do that down below. Before I get too far into the time lapse, I do want to say something about grass surfaces. So now that we're starting to get more access to detailing, I just want to give a brief description on how surfaces work. So surfaces are inside of the extra landscaping tools, or again, we talked about them in the dev UI. An important thing to remember about surfaces, though, is that there is a level of stacking that occurs and priority on who gets the top of the stack. So it seems like pavement and tiles kind of share priority. Maybe tiles are always stacked on top of pavement. I actually don't know. Let's take a look here. And then if I put more pavement on top of this, let's say I do this one. Boom. Yeah, so that is actually how it works. Just a side note as well is that you do need Anarchy mod in order to mess around with these invisible paths, because you cannot delete them without Anarchy mod. So please make sure that you have Anarchy mod turned on or installed and working on your computer before you start messing with invisible road paths or invisible pedestrian paths, because you cannot delete them without Anarchy mod. So still one of the limitations with the Anarchy mod is getting the target surfaces to kind of like stick to which one you actually want to, and that has a lot to do with the priority. So I accidentally deleted all of my surfaces on this lot, but it's still fully functional. They'll still use it. But anyways, we'll end up detailing this at some point. But the surfaces, there is a couple things to note about the surfaces. If you actually want to draw surfaces for your parking lots, as you notice, I don't have the ability to see the surfaces here. So if we go into our target markers and then open surfaces, you'll notice that it doesn't pop up, right? And if we don't have that on, but we select the tool and bring it up and then go to surfaces, you'll notice that it still doesn't pop up. What I've found, the only way to get this to properly work is to not only have it on in the bulldozer, but then go into the add object menu and toggle one of the invisible paths, and then go back over to surfaces. And both need to happen first before you can get the surfaces to stay on the screen, to actually do some detailing. So do keep that in mind. But anyways, I'm going to go back through now and fully detail this. Remember, grass surfaces have the lowest priority, so they'll always be on bottom. And that goes for both grass surface 1 and 2. They'll always be on the bottom of the stack compared to all the other surfaces. And if you draw over top of it with another grass surface, so let's say you see a house, let's say, with grass surface number 2, you can actually draw over that entire area with grass surface 1 if you don't want the cut grass that comes with grass surface 2, and it will replace it, or at least draw over top of it. You can do some playing around on your own to figure out which one does what. I'm going to quickly and crudely draw this in for the sake of the video, but you can mess around with it yourself, obviously, to figure out what does what. But in the general grand scheme of things, the grass surfaces are their own stack. They will overlap on top of one another. The pavement surfaces are their own stack. They will overlap on top of one another. And the tile surfaces are their own stack. They'll overlap on top of one another. I'm not really too sure about the other ones, which we will utilize some of the forest surface in this build. So anyways, I'm going to build this. There'll be a quick time lapse. Please feel free to fast forward through the video if you so choose. But if you want to stick around and learn how I build my parking lots, you guys can do that. Also, while you guys are watching the time lapses, please let me know down in the comments down below what other surfaces you'd like in the game. Things like beach textures or maybe something else like that, some mulch, anything like that. Please let me know down in the comments. Okay, before we go too much further into the time lapse, the reason I have to do it like this is because, as I've stated previously, grass is a layer below pavement. So if you want to make little cut-ins for things like grass surfaces, you have to leave a gap, basically, in your tile. If you go over to nearly any other asset that does something like this, so the university is a really great asset to look at here, and you'll see there's grass inside the tiles and the pavement. In order to get this grass to really even exist in here in little pockets, they have to create these little cuts in the surfaces, and that's pretty much why they're there. It's basically just a limitation of the surfaces. Eventually we might get a mod that might allow us to make custom priority for each surface that we place, but for the time being we have to have these little slits, and I like to put them right along the edge of where parking spaces are because it helps cover it up, at least in part of it. So I like to hide them right there. That's just my little tip for you guys. And then I'm going to go in here with each one of these little grassy knoll areas that I put down, and I'm going to go in with a forestry surface. Now, forestry surface, it looks like it goes underneath the grass surfaces, so I'll probably have to destroy the grass surface on the outside and redraw that in. So now that I've destroyed that, you guys can actually see what these grass, the forestry area kind of looks like. It almost looks like it's like mulchy, and we'll put bushes under here and it'll look a lot more natural because under bushes in real life, you don't really see a lot of grass. It'll usually be like in a flower bed or something like that. And so I think it is just honestly the perfect texture for things like that. So I'm going to go through and do that in these little sections right here, and then I'm going to go into full detail mode, and then afterwards I'll explain which assets I used and why I used them. Okay, so there we go. This is about as far as I want to detail for the sake of the video and keeping it nice and concise and just being able to explain to you guys what I've done here. So what I've done is I placed surfaces down in order to mask underneath the parking spaces so they didn't look like they were just floating on grass. I added some manicured grass outside the edges of it. I added some walkways in from different sides of the parking lot. So if they actually wanted to come from this road, I put a pedestrian path in here so you can actually walk underneath it. And it is a functional pedestrian path that does connect up to this walkway, so they will use it. I've seen them use these. I've also added them that come up from over here. Now these decals that I placed on the side for the motorbike parking as well as the electric car parking, vehicles will not use these. They cannot actually access them. They will not drive their cars and park there, but they are just like nice little design elements I used to put on the edges because I couldn't think of anything else to kind of put on the edges when I was building the other one. So I just kind of put them there. I don't know if this is how motorbike parking actually is. I don't think I've ever seen motorbike parking, to be quite honest with you. So, but I built it like that because I think it looks nice. And then we got some nice little walkways off the side here. And all of this is fully functional. People will actually drive through and park, and you'll see them actually get out and walk. And if we go over here to the ones that we already have that are functional, and we take a look over here, eventually you'll see some people actually walk through and take these pedestrian paths if we wait long enough. But as you can see, they're walking in through from over here to get to their car, and then they take their car and they drive away. So anyways, huge shout out to Sully for showing me at least how to do these. I hope you guys learned something from these. I think these are like pretty basic compared to what Sully did in his. So if you guys are looking for like really cool designs for your parking spaces, I definitely suggest checking out his video. I'm sure there's other tips and tricks that we can find for parking lots, but I think that's enough just for this video unless we make an entire video just based on how to use the parking tool in City Skylines 2's dev mode, which is not what this video is, but I did want to show this off because this is pretty much all I've been doing on my Twitch stream the past like 2-3 days, which if you want to watch along, you guys can find down in the description. Also, these light poles I placed as well. I spent a lot of time actually figuring out like which ones to use and how to use them. If you actually go through some of the custom made lots, you'll notice that there's a bunch of different type of lighting. If you go into the dev mode and you type in lighting, the ones that they actually use, or light, I guess, the ones that they actually end up using for parking lots in the pre-made ones are light pole commercial 1 through 4 and light pole industrial 1 through 4. And the industrial ones are much taller and they're typically been used on bigger parking lots. And the commercial ones are typically used on smaller ones. And these do work. So if we go here into dev mode and we go into simulation and we go to time, and we actually change the time of day. Let's actually do that. And we change it to nighttime here. You can actually see that these lights actually do work. They are functional lighting spaces. You may be like, that's like a little too little lights for what I'd like. That's totally fine. You can add more lights to yours. I tried to make it match the amount of light that's actually in the pre-made parking spaces. So a lot of the pre-made parking lots don't have that much light coverage. I'm sure City Planner Plays would probably not be happy if he saw that, but I think it matches the rest of the parking spaces in the game, and I did try to make this feel like it at least belonged in some way in the game. So like a nice little combination of like detailed but also vanilla asset. So anyways, sorry for getting the invisible paths wrong before. They didn't work before. They work now. You should use them. Let's move on. Now, let's get over here onto Thunderstore. And aside from Ned Dirt Radio, there were a lot of big mods that have come out since my last video. The first one, which was actually huge for me because this was a bug I've noticed since the game came out and I've been very frustrated by, was Signature Fix. Fixes always empty industrial signature buildings. If you've ever placed, let's say like the dairy industry building, you might have noticed, at least I noticed, that no building would ever move into it. I'm sorry, building, industry, like no company would ever move into this building. It frustrated me to no end, but with Signature Fix, I was able to actually get them to move into the dairy house. It was specifically this one that I noticed the issue on, and I could never get anything to move into it, but now you can. Signature Fix fixes that problem. I'm sure this will eventually become depreciated as they fix this issue, hopefully down the road. But if you can't get a company to move into your signature buildings, please download this mod and give it a shot because it helped me a lot. Next up is Dynamic Resolution Extended, which allows you to switch dynamic resolution scale within the settings menu. Now, this mod is a test build currently, so it's not like fully done, and they're still working out some bugs. But essentially, if you have, if you're running on a computer that maybe is like just on the edge of like running the game properly, or as you get higher up in your build and you're noticing your FPS is beginning to decrease, you can actually use this to increase your FPS by adaptively using the dynamic resolution in order to actually get there. So if you go into the options menu in game, you'll notice that it's actually in there, and it'll be under dynamic resolution extended right here. And it says set high value and set low value. And right here, it gives the description of what each one does. If you set the high value, this checkbox will set the dynamic resolution scale fraction to its maximum and comes with possible performance issues depending on your overall system specs. So this will allow the dynamic resolution to have the highest value. So if you are using dynamic resolution and you want the best possible visual quality, I believe that the highest value is probably the best one to use here. And then to set the lowest value, this checkbox will set the dynamic resolution scale fraction to its lowest and is best for performance. So if you're using dynamic resolution and you want more performance, you can set it to lowest value. I have no idea how badly this will affect the visual quality, but if you are really running out of performance in your game, this is a way to help further extend that. Next up is one that should have just this should have been a base game feature just like it was in City Skylines 1, and that's extract anywhere. Now, you couldn't just extract anywhere in City Skylines 1, but what we don't have in City Skylines 2 is unlimited ore and oil. Now, obviously, this was one of those like cheat mod things that was in the main menu that allowed you to have access to unlimited ore and oil on your map, so you didn't have to worry about running out of those extractable resources. Now, is that unrealistic? Sure. Was it in the technical mod menu, but was it vanilla? Also, yes. And I was very frustrated when this game first came out when I looked and saw that the ore and oil was not unlimited. Now, obviously, we can paint more oil and ore underneath our industry areas to help further, basically help them last a bit longer. Some maps have an abundant amount of them as well. And if we really just want to place our ore and oil anywhere, we can just do that by painting it. But this helps remove that step by just allowing us to extract from anywhere. If we want to place a farm somewhere that doesn't have fertile land, this will still allow us to use it. You can still use the map's allocated resources that are in the ground as guides for your builds, but this just allows you to place them and then not worry about them anymore, and they are just permanent fixtures in your city. This also allows you to change the area that it actually extracts. So as I go into game here, you can see extract anywhere right here, and we can go through different options in the game. So the general can all extractors extract from anywhere. You can toggle this on, yes or no. And then if you say no, you can go into each of the individual ones. And then there's extraction radius multiplier. What this does is it sets the multiplier for the area's size of all extractors. So this will allow you to extract even more resources from the surrounding area if you so choose. You can also go through each individual thing. So for fertile land, you can tell it, well, I want textile fibers to have extract anywhere, but maybe I don't want grain to do it. I want grain to be restricted for whatever challenges that you want to set yourself to. If you only want this to work for ore and oil, just so you can have unlimited ore and oil, but you don't want this to work for forests and fertile land, so you still have at least some kind of guideline challenges where you at least have to place it in those areas, you can do that if you want to. I think this mod's great. Should have been a base game feature. Maybe it will be when PDX Mods comes out, but I miss my unlimited ore and oil, and this is giving it to me. Next up is another performance mod by Nyoko, which is ReRendering Options. Again, this one's also a test build, but again, it's another performance mod that can help you stretch the performance of your game a bit longer. Now, what this mod does is it actually goes into the Unity quality settings and allows you to basically change certain settings in there to extract even more performance out of your game. If you are using Performance Squeezer, I believe this mod and Dynamic Resolution Extended actually depreciate that mod. So if you're using Performance Squeezer, replace it with this and Dynamic Resolution Extended. But essentially, it just allows you to go into the options, as you can see here in this image, and affect a bunch of the settings. And there's even more advanced options up here, or you can hide the advanced options, I guess, up here in the advanced tab up over here. But it basically just allows you to affect and change more things in the game. There are some things that are locked, I guess, as far as I understand it from the mod's description, but it allows you to really help stretch your performance of your machine once again. Next one is another mod coming from Cities 2 modding team, which is Tweak UI. And this mod allows you to tweak the UI in various ways. And this is why earlier in the video, you guys heard me mention like, oh, if my UI is really big, I'll explain why later, and that's because of Tweak UI. Tweak UI allows you to add more rows to your UI, much like the better UI or better toolbar mod from Sully Skylines one. I can't remember the name of it right now, but much like how that mod functions with one other feature. So right here in the features, it says customizable asset tool menu adjusts the number of rows in the asset tool menus, which you guys saw in my gameplay footage earlier, but it also has resizable transportation overview window. Thanks to the idea by Biffa, you can now resize the transportation overview window to better manage your city's transit system. So right here we are in our transportation overview window, and if we go up here to Tweak UI and change the scale of it, we can actually make it much bigger or much smaller. Obviously the 10% you really can't see much of anything. Maybe if you're on a high resolution monitor, it would pop up, but this just allows your screen to actually take up more of it. So if you actually just want access to all of the options in there and you want to be able to see all of them really quickly, you can do that now with the Tweak UI options, and they plan on doing a lot more too. Next up was a collaboration that I actually helped facilitate. After working with City Rat, he actually asked me if I could help him get in touch with City Planner Plays to actually make a full City Planner radio. So I reached out to Phil, and then they began collaborating, and now we have an official full collection of the City Planner Plays master planned music pack. This is all royalty-free music. This is safe to use on YouTube. It's what you hear in the background of my videos. You'll actually only almost exclusively hear music from the Northwoods Radio collection in the background of my videos because I like it a lot. But City Rat went through, made custom thumbnails for everything, and made entire radio packs for them. So if you're looking to listen to the in-game radios, but you want something maybe that's royalty-free, so long as you cite that you're using it in your description, or use it on Twitch for free and have no issues whatsoever with copyright, or you're just looking to add a bit more variety to the background music radio in your game, you can download the City Planner Plays Master Plan Music Mod Pack by City Rat. In addition to that, the extended radio mod that all the custom radios are kind of built around has been, the UI has been slightly reworked. Before, all of the radios went across the top of the screen, and now they go vertically on the side, so you can actually sort through them a bit better. So right here we have the City Planner Radio Pack, which contains all of the music stations. If you just want to download them individually, you can go onto Thunderstore and download them individually. I'm going to link the pack down below. I also have all of City Rat's networks as well as my custom network with Ned Dirt FM. But I really like the changes and updates that are coming to the custom radio mod, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. Do keep in mind that the CTK network Ned Dirt FM, as far as I understand it from Ned himself, that this stuff is safe to use on your Twitch streams, and the City Planner Plays radio pack for the master planned music stuff is also all copyright free on Twitch, and as long as you cite that they're using it in the description by putting master plan music or City Planner Plays in your description, these are totally safe to use. Now finally is a Big Daddy mod, but I left it for last because it is an alpha and there is some warnings in the description that it could break your game. But over the next week or two, I expect this mod to be maybe fully fleshed out and a lot safer to use because I'm not testing it. To be quite honest, I'm a little scared that it will break my saves just because of the warnings in the description, so I'm not really willing to risk any of my saves for this mod, but we also have a new Ploppable Rico mod. Again, it is in alpha, so anyone who wants to help test this mod for Lemmy, the creator of it, you can feel free to do so by downloading the mod, and it adds new categories in the signature building menu to allow you to place pretty much every residential, commercial, mixed, industrial, and office assets directly into the map as you would signature buildings. Now, we can do this using the dev UI, but I'm assuming that this will allow us to have a much better UI and search functionality to actually find the buildings that we want to use. Obviously, this is great news for those of us looking to customize our cities to the nitty-gritty details. Again, down in the description, they do say, warning, highly experimental, please back up any saved city or start a new city before attempting to use this mod. Now, obviously, I could just back up my saves and go to the races if I wanted to, but I am just a little scared. So if you've used this mod, please let me know how it works down in the description. Let me know all the details about it. I'm very curious to see how it works. It does have a dependency with Cities 2 modding's No Unique Buildings, which also just recently came out. But at the same time, there is, or I guess was, an update to the Anarchy mod that actually allows for placing multiple unique buildings like signature buildings, for example. So if you happen to download the new Ploppable Rico mod, I'd be really curious to see if you can just use Anarchy's built-in place multiple unique buildings and not the dependent unique signature buildings mod from Cities 2 modding. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it does start to create some redundancies, and you're just downloading more mods that do the same things, and it's just more points of failure in my opinion. Or if something happens to the Anarchy mod, can we just download the other mod and have it work just fine, or do they conflict with one another? So please let me know down in the descriptions if you've tested this, or let me know how any of this works. Again, the alpha is just like a little scary to me, and I just don't have all the time in the world to like just go through, back up my saves, and then test to make sure the stuff breaks. And if it breaks, I have to go back and fix everything. So I just genuinely don't want to do all that. So let me know down in the comments down below if you've tested any of this. Or let me know down below if No Unique Buildings has any extra features, I guess, than the Anarchy one. Well, the Anarchy one just works with a toggle and everything just kind of works. So I don't know what else this mod could provide further than that. So if it does provide something else, also please let me know down in the description, because I couldn't really find anything different. Now, I think that's all the updates for the week. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. There was a lot of stuff in this video, and I hope you guys learned a lot about parking lots. Again, at the end of this video, I highly suggest you guys go check out Sully's video on the parking lots. Again, it's in the annotations, it's in the descriptions, maybe it's in an end screen card. I don't know if I can do that to other channels, but anyways, if it is, it's there. Go look at it. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one, which will hopefully be the map video. So I'll catch you later. Deuces.